In the year 1770, across the misted valleys of Hesse, a child was born who would one day inspire both awe and terror. He grew among rolling fields, the warmth of the hearth, and the laughter of children. He became a husband, a father, and a man who dreamed only of peace and stability. But Europe was restless, and history is never kind to dreamers. When the Princess of Hesse sold their men into foreign service, he was drafted into war, promised land, pay, and honor if he fought across the sea. On strange soil, far from home, he proved unstoppable. His sword cut with frightening speed. His body seemed untouchable, and enemies whispered that he could not be killed. His comrades saw him as loyal and steadfast, a brother who bled as they did. Yet loyalty breeds envy, and envy breeds betrayal. Officers, jealous of his victories, spread whispers that he had bargained with the devil, that no mortal could wield such power. Rumor gave way to resentment, and resentment to conspiracy. Their betrayal struck not at his chest, but at his heart. One night, his rivals leaked the location of his village. Raiders descended with torches, slaughtering everything that lived. Livestock, neighbors, even the children weren't spared. When he returned with his regiment, sword still red from distant victory, he found only ash, his wife, his children, his home, all reduced to silence beneath a sky darkened with smoke. He fell to his knees in the dirt, clutching the earth where his family once lived. Something inside him shattered. From that day forward, he fought not for coin or king, but for vengeance. He abandoned neat lines of European battle for the shadows of trees and the blood of ambushes. He scalped enemies, collected trophies, and struck without warning. Muskets fired but never seemed to touch him. Bayonets lunged but never pierced his heart. He was no longer man, but a storm. Propaganda painted him as a monster, a butcher. Even his own comrades began to believe the whispers. He had indeed made a pact with hell, and perhaps, in his grief, he had. Whatever bargain he struck, it carried him only so far. His regiment, weary of his shadow, devised a trap. They lured him to the old Dutch church with lies of an enemy force. He charged, blinded by duty, his warhorse screaming into the fog, but the cannons were waiting. The blast thundered, and in an instant his head was torn from his body. As his vision dimmed, he saw his own comrades smiling, betrayal carved deeper than steel or fire. His body was buried in secret, deep in the woods, while his severed head was left near the church as a warning. But the land itself remembered what men tried to bury. The soil soured, roots twisted, and the forest grew heavy with rage. Crows gathered in numbers never seen before, their cries filling the air like a curse. Fog settled thick, clinging to the earth as though mourning. Soldiers spoke of strange sights, shadows that moved without wind, a rider glimpsed in the mist. At first, it was only drunken talk by campfires. Soon, it became undeniable. They swore they saw a rider clad in Hessian steel, broad-shouldered and fearsome, astride a monstrous steed that snorted steam. Its hooves sparked against stone, its eyes burned with fury. Yet where a face should have been, there was nothing. The rider had no head. In his gauntlet hand, a weapon gleamed with unholy hunger, raised against all who crossed him. The man who had once been a father and a husband was gone. In his place remained only vengeance, an oath carried beyond death. He was no longer the Hessian soldier. He was wrath given form, the embodiment of betrayal's wound. His humanity had been stripped by grief, consumed by rage, and bound to the soil of Sleepy Hollow, the old Dutch church, where cannon fire ended his life, became the heart of his haunting. Each foggy night drew him back, a revenant bound to the place of his fall. Thus was the Headless Horseman born, not by choice, but by curse. He is not a ghost of simple malice, but the storm of a man betrayed, a headless warrior whose soul was broken before it was buried. His power does not come from the devil's bargain alone, but from the land itself, twisted by the depth of his fury. He is vengeance eternal, unquiet, unyielding. Riders crossing the hollow whisper prayers, for they know the soil carries his rage. And so, when the fog curls thick and the crows gather silent, beware, for in the distance you may hear the thunder of hooves, the hiss of steel, and the breath of a beast that does not tire. The Hessian soldier is no more. What rides now is the horseman, headless, relentless, and forever hunting.
In the valley of Sleepy Hollow, the fog still remembers fire. The ruins of the old Dutch church breathe in silence as hoofbeats fade beyond the mist. Among gravestones slick with dew, the earth stirs. Roots twist beneath the soil, whispering of a promise unbroken. A silver coin falls through the fog. It lands upon blood and memory and begins to glow. The soil trembles. Something ancient begins to breathe again. From the mist, a lone rider appears. Washington Irving, witness to his own creation. Moonlight traces awe and dread across his face. In a quiet study, ink spills upon parchment. The words appear on their own. Sleepy Hollow. The fog reforms, curling around the fallen coin. Vines twist, shaping the skull of a horse. Next chapter, October 18th. The light fades, only the hollow remains. The hollow waits for you.